Hi, I'm Professor Stephanie, and in this presentation, we're going to think about selecting furniture for an interior space. And we're going to use the principle of unity, which is the effect of bringing all the principles, having them be together, have them be harmonious with each other, and creating a feeling of wholeness. So unity is, to me, is like bring things together visually. And with the three elements we're going to use are shape, and there's actually two elements. That's why I was stumbling a little bit. The shape, but the style is also like the furniture style is a way of repeating and creating unity, and then also a little bit on color. So these three features of furniture are going to become important with creating a room that feels unified. In this slide, we're going to look at an image of a design from Mrs. Howard. She's a quite renowned, nationally renowned, known interior designer who has a home base here in Jacksonville. So we're going to use several of her images to talk about this idea of selecting furniture and accessories and having them all work together. So oftentimes we will be repeating design elements. This is a critical way of bringing this unity together, and this really makes the design and the interior very successful. When we look at this image, you can see that the square bed, the frame of the bed, matches the square chair and the table. So each one of these elements, the visual part of the bed with the frame, the chair, and the table have a square shape. They also have brown or tan as their color, so that is also unifying. To me, the element on the frame of the bed is very thin, and so is the table next to it. And really the chair also has sort of small wood features. And then the color, as you can see, really pulls this together with just the creams, the different tones of the brown, and then the white. So let's look at being able to recognize how we can recognize these design features. We have two images here. The top one, to me, has very strong geometric style with a little bit of curves. So most of the style is geometric. We have straight lines, we have square shapes, and the curve comes in, as you can see, the turned legs. The legs on the table and the front legs of the chairs have turning. So they do have some curves in them, but the majority of the table and the chairs are considered geometric, square, rectangular shapes. Now this is the opposite for the table and chairs below. So look at how we have curved lines, especially at the below the table. That the big bulbous turned two legs there. They're big. They're round. The back of the chairs are oval shaped. So yes, there's still rectangular shapes within these, the table and chair, but mostly what we're noticing and seeing is the curvilinear shapes of furniture pieces that have strong geometric shapes with some curves. You can see we chatted a little bit about that image on the top. And the turned legs, to me, are an important feature. And I like that in a space, if you would be able to repeat them. So I'm particularly interested in the coffee table on the left that is the same color wood, and it has the turned leg features similar to what you see in the dining chairs, and yet it's also a very rectangular shape. The top and the apron below and the drawer all say, rectangle, all right? And then we also have another very similar shape table on the right-hand side there. This feature is a little bit different because of the color. You'll see we've got, I think that's maybe a dark green or gray. That's the base, and then there's wood stain on the top. So we have an element that's different with these two coffee tables. And for me, if I were choosing between the two to go with the dining room table, I'd choose the one on the left, because it is the one that that's going to unify these two different pieces of furniture. And really, if one room was next to the other, you would also want to be unifying them. With these images, we are actually looking at the furniture pieces having more curvilinear or curved aspects of their main feature. And it's especially true for me with that desk at the top of the page. Those legs that have an S shape are very curvilinear. And that's, to me, that's like something that I noticed right away. So when I look at that piece of furniture, I'm like, ooh, look at those curved legs. It's very dynamic, it's fun. And that's a feature that in that space I would want to see some more curves in the furniture, or fabrics even that imitate that shape. The table below, these images don't go together, but they each on their own are pretty strong with that curve flavor. The shape itself of the table is curved. The front, it's a little hard to see, but that's a curved front. So that's a very strong feature. The drawers and doors are rectilinear shaped, and yet I would say that that curve is important. We have the floor lamp. Again, that's a turned wood. We talked about that with a couple of the legs and the slides before. And very curvilinear. It gives me a real curved flavor. It's interesting when I look at the chair next to it, those big round arms, again, are very curvilinear. My guess is the back of that chair also is rounded. So those two pieces that are separate, a lamp and a chair, have some unity to them because of the shape, that rounded shape. And then the table lamp has a very beautiful shape that's round. It's going to be so that we have that curvilinear flavor. So we would put that into a space that would have other curvilinear flavors also. Another aspect in selecting furniture is to notice some unique features that it might have. And you want to, when you identify a unique feature, repeat it in the space. So for example, in these 4 images, metal is part of the story. That dining room, that trestle table on the top is a great example of, it's a wood table and yet it has metal supports. So in a space that you'd have this table, it would be interesting to repeat the metal and maybe even the color of the metal, and to add some unity to the space. The tables below are not only metal, but there's glass and there's leather. And so those 3 elements are part of that furniture, and that it would be nice to repeat some of that in the space if you use that. The 2 lamps, again, are just interesting. They're metal. Several of them have sort of a darker flavor. One's painted white. Again, each of those features, if you're going to have white painted metal, you might want to repeat either white, other white accessories, or white as part of the story, and or white metal. So we're looking at our very closely at furniture and lamps and other accessories. What are their features and how can we repeat them in a space to create unity? Here's another example of repeating shapes, wood and wood color, to create unity in the furniture. This has a very distinct sort of, I would say, a Swedish modern flavor, where the chairs have a strong angular lines. They have very thin spindles, and then you can see that repeated in the image above in the lamp, the lighting fixtures. See how they sort of imitate each other, and then the lamp on the left also has this very similar wood flavor. The angle is important. So all of these would be considered unifying. In these next 3 slides, we're going to look at some designs by Mrs. Howard. Again, she actually has a great website that you can look at, and her designs to me are very successful. Obviously, she's in lots of magazines. She's actually, really quite famous, and she does a terrific job putting different elements and into a space very successfully. So let's take a look at this, and for me, This room has a high proportion of curves, circles, curves, rounded arms, and this element of the curve is very important. You'll see the window treatment on both when you face it. The shades have that lovely low, that just a very small curve. Looks like on the left there's another valance that has a curve. We've got the sofa and the big cushy chair, which looks so comfortable, very curvilinear. A round table that actually looks like it's a upholstered that's kind of fun. I'm interested in the table on the right back next to the bed. Does look like that those are it's a period piece, maybe Hepplewhite legs, curved, very important, and I almost would bet you, and I can't tell for sure, but that chest of drawers has a bow front. So here is, to me, a very well-designed space that uses curvilinear shapes to unify it. And then the color is pretty simple, and really simple is good. You don't have to be too complicated with the design. Here's another bedroom designed by Mrs. Howard. This time, this room leans, to me, more into the square rectilinear shapes. And so that four-poster bed has a very strong vertical line, very square. The bench in front of the bed has a strong rectangular shape, and I actually think that the chair back in that right-hand corner has this pretty square, that table back there too. The window treatment in the bay window has a horizontal line, square kind of shape. So to me, it leans, the percentage is higher in the rectilinear shape than curved, although there are some curves in there. And that's typical in a room. It's not 100% one way or the other. It just leans and has the flavor is one way or the other. In review, and this is especially when you're starting out putting furniture pieces together and accessories, one of the key things you can do to unify a space is to bring those shapes, bring the style, and keep the color very closely connected. Here's another space by Mrs. Howard. Those curvilinear chairs to me are spectacular, and they're just supported with other curves. The bench on the right has a very dramatic curve. The Hepplewhite chest of drawers in the back, the chest also was going to have a curved front. So remember that when you're putting your own pieces of furniture together, lamps, accessories, things, be thinking of their shape, be thinking of the style, and see if you can't repeat that. Put it in the 70% category, the 80% category, so that your space will feel like it's unified and very comfortable to be in. Thank you.